Now, my little podcast teams and whatnot, I found it really useful. I mean, we've been doing loads actually. We've got a new series of Not the Same Log going at the
Oh
moment.
yes.
And we've been doing, it's rough. I mean, it's always very, we don't restrict ourselves as such. We just do whatever we like. But it's been roughly sort of science fiction horror themed.
Oh, lovely.
So it's been
Oh,
fun.
yeah, you
It's
did
been
Alien,
fun.
didn't you, recently?
We did. We started with Quatermass and the Pit. So like the granddaddy, one of the big.
Which version, or did you do all of them?
No, we just did the. I mean, we referenced all of them, but specifically we did the 1970s one.
Nice. Is that the Hammer horror? Is it?
That's
Hammer?
the one.
Yeah,
That's the one.
Lovely.
Really unusual for a Hammer horror as well.
Yes, it
Very
is.
strange
Yes.
film. Brilliant. The one with Andrew Keir as Quatermass.
Yeah, I think I've got that one on DVD somewhere.
Wow, what a film. Utterly amazing. And like we were just blown away by it. It's one of those films that like science fiction horror creators cite all the time. John Carpenter references it like endlessly in his films. And obviously, I mean, the influence on Alien is fairly huge. It's fairly obvious.
Doctor Who as well, isn't it? That was very much inspired by all of that.
Oh my god, it's got such a it is like a slightly bigger budget Doctor Who episode from the era.
Yes,
it's got all the feeling of that,
Yeah, it does. That sort of like the idea that something could be buried beneath your feet for so long. That's this like alien intelligence. That's a very sort of classic Doctor Who sort of feel,
isn't it? Isn't it just? And I love what it does because obviously, even though it's relatively well budgeted, that film for a British horror film of
for its time, definitely.
For its era, it's not bad, but it's still working within certain restraints, so it just runs with it. There's a lot of it is just vibes. It's just ambience and atmosphere, and I love that. I find horror is very effective when it goes for that.
I like all of that in this sort of the classic British ghost stories for Christmas, like the 70s ones are like that. If you see anything at all, it might just be something for half a second near the end of the film.
It's like the Stalls of Barchester, right? Where you just see there's nothing in the whole thing really. You don't see anything. It's just noises and vibes, and then at the very end, you see
a hand. That's it.
And that's it, right? That's it. But it's so effective. It's so incredibly effective. As you say, as all of those, the original ghost stories for Christmas really are. I mean, the more recent ones, there's been hits and misses. Some of them have been okay. A lot of them have kind of fallen
some
flat.
of them were brilliant, but some of them were just a bit okay. They're fine, but it's I think it leans too hard sometimes into the we'll show you the monster in the final scene.
Yeah,
I think
very
that
much so.
That's going to be what happens. So it's a bit predictive.
But I mean, the ones that seem to be informed by those original 1960s, 1970s ones. They really hit the mark. Yeah,
they do. Yeah, he did a couple like prior to the most recent revival. He did a couple around sort of like the 2010 mark.
Yes.
So they were really good. There's some really good ones around there.
He did a redo of the Tractate Midith, didn't he? And,
he did.
Which was not bad. It was all right. There's a couple of others. That. Yeah.
And there was one around the 2005-ish, around they did Room 13 that I thought was really good.
God,
they did a version of that. Yeah,
was it that
was
early?
A good one.
Wow.
Yeah.
God almighty.
It's got that weird sort of thing now that like ever since filming switched to digital, it's harder to date something. Yes. So you can watch something from 2005 and it could have been filmed last year. It's very difficult to tell.
I didn't know.
Particularly if it's a period piece, so there's no fashion, there's no technology, there's nothing like that. But yeah, that was 2005, 2006, and it's I like that one a lot. I think that's got that same sort of classic 60s, 70s vibe where you never really see anything.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite of the original run is I don't know if it's late 60s or early 70s. It's the A Warning to the Curious adaptation.
Yes, that is that one. Really, really good. I think that one and the original Whistle were filmed on the same stretch of beach.
Yes, I think you're probably correct. They look very, very, very similar.
But that thing of like at the end of he's giving the thing back, and then that's still not enough.
It's still not
the
enough.
Crown. It's
so violent as well. I mean, you don't see
very for a James one. Yeah,
you don't see anything, but like the implied violence is really horrible in that one.
It is in the book. book, you don't see it in the film version, but in the book, it describes that like his face is barely recognizable as a face when they find
he's
his
been
corpse.
hacked to bits, hasn't he? There's just like nothing left of him, bludgeoned basically.
Yeah, which for an M.R. James story, that's pretty severe.
It is, isn't it? You don't really, it's a lot of the violence is kind of implied, or it's supernatural in nature. It's not like really physical like this is, I
wonder if that's because the ghost is actually a human ghost.
I don't know.
Who was a violent man in life, whereas a lot of his entities are not human, are they? They're just
they're they're otherworldly, aren't they? They're like almost Lovecraftian in nature, right?
There's something that never was actually a human at any point. Whereas him, I forgot his name now, but the family, the last surviving member of that family who protects the crown, he was a violent man in life, wasn't he? So
yes, he was.
It stands to reason that his spirit would be the same. Now I'm trying to think of his name, but
I can't remember it off the top of my head. Obviously, I remember Professor Black because he's in loads of these.
They kind of did a shared universe with him, didn't they? And then
He's also in the Stalls of Barchester, isn't he?
He's the guy following up on it, isn't he? He's like reading up on the cases and everything. Yeah, but then in the Warning to the Curious, he's directly involved in it.
Directly, yeah. He like gets engaged with it, and it's implied at the end of A Warning to the Curious that it kind of follows him.
Yes.
When he gets on the train and the guard says, "Oh, sorry, sir, I thought I saw someone else get on."
Yeah, that's stuff like that is brilliant for ghost stories. That kind of like there's a very, very similar line in the Whistle I'll Come to You where she says, "Do you want me to make up your bed?" And he's at the hotel and he's like, "Well, of course I do." And she says, "Well, which one?" Because they've both been slept in.
Both been slept in, yeah. And that escalates, doesn't it? Because he when his I think it's his notes get moved around, don't they?
Yeah.
Or his case gets moved around or something.
Keeps shifting his
and he gets a bit irate with the maid, and she hasn't touched it. It's whatever force or entity has followed him.
Yeah, something I'll tell you what I liked, kind of the antithesis to that in the Room 13 is it goes against type in that usually in these stories someone's experiencing something like that and then no one else sees it. But in Room 13, other people see it.
Other people see the room and the ghost. Yeah,
there's something kind of brazen about that with the haunting. It's like it's not hiding away. It's literally it's here. And
I kind of like
you just have to deal with it.
It's refreshing, isn't it? Because like a lot of the tension of those stories tends to come from the paranoia, where like there's only one individual who's experiencing it, and you're like, oh well, am I going mad? Am I hallucinating? But when you've got the verification of other people seeing it, it's like, oh, okay, so suddenly it's on another level. This is absolutely a break in reality. This is absolutely supernatural.
And in some ways that's worse because as long as it's just you could always slip into I imagined it.
Yes, but you can deny
when you've got like 3 people have seen it independently, you've got to accept that this is happening.
There's something going on, isn't there? Then it's like, oh dear, something a bit more profound and kind of out of control is happening, which I kind of like. I kind of like that. A lot of like not necessarily just the M.R. James adaptations, but a lot of the horror from those eras, like the 60s and the 70s, does that. I mean, I always refer back to the Nigel Neal stuff. Like the Stone Tape.
Stone Tape,
friggin' love that. Stone Tape is like a Christmas watch for me.
I've been trying to find it on DVD, but I can't find anything. There isn't like a stupidly expensive.
Yes, that's the thing. It's rare. There was a really dedicated DVD release of the Stone Tape, and it was packaged with something else. I can't remember what it was. Whether it was, I think it may have been Ghostwatch.
That sounds likely. Yeah,
and it is good. It's a really good DVD, but my God, is it expensive? It's rare these days. But
I rewatched Ghostwatch last Halloween. Actually,
isn't that
scary? That for a while.
Isn't it scary? I mean, like. I remember rediscovering it because, like, it went. Obviously, the BBC disavowed it after the complete furor that it created, and it was lost. It was like lost media for the longest time until the BFI came out with that DVD set in the early 2000s.
Yes,
and I remember coming back to it and it was a good day. I was at uni, and I bought that and Don't Look Now. Together.
Oh, excellent! That's a good couple of finds. Yeah,
I mean, like I'd never seen Don't Look Now, but heard loads about it, so I had to see it. And the Ghostwatch, I'd seen it when it was originally aired, but I was like 1992. I was a kid, you know. I was I was a kid, so I couldn't
remember seeing it, but I can't remember much of it. But I think the thing there's a couple of things that make it, when you put it into the right context, that make it as scary as it is. One is the fact that for people who were alive and watching television at that time, these were legitimate broadcasters. They hadn't just hired a bunch of actors. These were people who you would watch on. Here's a Panorama documentary about football hooligans or something.
Parky, for God's sake, right?
It was all like of them were people that you'd see on stuff like this.
Yes, Sarah Green from children's television, from CBBC. So it was all trustworthy. It was all, and it was marketed that way. Obviously, it was marketed that way. I remember the marketing for it, where they were like, they actively proclaimed that this was a live documentary broadcast.
Well, apparently, right at the very original broadcast, the only thing at all that told you that it wasn't real was, you get them idents where it'd come up with like a number one. It'd be like, next on BBC One.
Yeah.
The one of them that was like the second before it started said something about now a new drama from the BBC.
Right.
And that's it.
But people didn't realise.
People switch over partway through. That's how you used to watch television. You just finish watching Coronation Street on other side, and then you flick back 2 minutes into it. So if you didn't see that, that's it.
Suddenly you're in this. Yeah, you're in this world where it looked like a documentary. It feels like it's live. You've got Parky, so someone who is, known to you as a trustworthy face. And of course, that was the point of the project. There's brilliant interviews with the director, with Stephen Volk, obviously the writer, and they talk about how the reason they made Ghostwatch was because they wanted to explore how media could be used to create cultural narrative. In particular, they were looking at things like the Gulf War, which was one of the first fully televised wars in human history. Where you saw, you saw footage of it. You had daily updates through news broadcasts. And Stephen Volk said, well, we're being given narrative here. We're not being given facts. We're being given narrative. We're being told the nature of this war. So that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to create something that tricked the audience and that said to them, look, you can't necessarily trust these mediums. You haven't the context to understand what's real and what's not that was the point of the project. And
I think it worked.
I would say, people got angry about this. They got angry. And my sort of like pop psychology cultural analysis of it is that although they use the language of, it scared us, I call bullshit on that. I don't think that's true. It did scare you, but that's not why you were angry. You were angry because it called into question your relationship to media.
Yeah, made you doubt it for the first time, perhaps.
Yeah, that parasocial relationship. Also, it was the BBC doing it. Back then, BBC was this monolith. It was one of the only almost universally trusted news sources in the world.
Yes.
So to be lied to, actively lied to and kind of conned by the BBC, it really got to people. It really upset them. And that's what they reacted against. They didn't, and people didn't even necessarily realize that was why they were feeling so prickly, why they were feeling so betrayed. But that was it. That was the crux of it. It called into question a fundamental relationship that culture has with media, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it because ultimately, it's kind of damning in a way. The reaction is damning because it's one of the bravest and most experimental and interesting things the BBC have ever done. It's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
It's absolutely brilliant. It was a wonderful experiment. Sorry,
go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the mythology of it was somewhat reminiscent of the Stone Tape as well, I thought.
Yeah, it was very...
the ghost isn't the ghost. It's like a layer upon layer upon layer, isn't it? Ghost is that dude who used to live there, but he himself was haunted by someone else who was apparently haunted by something else. Yes. And then they talk about, how long has this been here? It's like it's wearing different faces, but this is like a primordial thing. And that's the same as on
on the stone tape,
isn't
yeah.
it?
And other things like the Overlook from The Shining is exactly the same thing, right?
Yes.
I mean, Jack Graham, my podcast partner, he described these things. He coined this brilliant term, which is it's a wound in history. It's a place that's haunted by history, not by like an active conscious ghost. It's atrocity. It's layer upon layer of trauma and atrocity and negative vibes that have piled up and piled up and piled up.
Yeah.
And it's like these places are almost like psychic resonators and amplifiers, and all the negativity comes spilling out. It expresses itself. And you find it a lot in horror, interestingly. Right. You find it a lot in ghost stories. I mean, a lot of Poe stories seem to almost subtly imply this. The Fall of the House of Usher is kind of this.
Yes.
Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House is this. It's like this down to the wire, right?
Yeah, and I think there's something. I don't know. I feel it feels a bit sort of like, I don't know. Add something to it. The fact that like the ghost who you think is the ghost, but actually when you find out about them, oh, hang on, they claimed to be haunted as well when they were alive, and then the person who they were haunted by, they were haunted as well, and that adds a whole other layer of sort of power to it, rather than just a ghost that you can then somehow exercise or something.
Yeah, it makes it elemental, doesn't it? Because it takes away the humanity of the entity.
Yes,
or whatever.
I think that's the key.
It takes away the limits of it. It's something ambient and environmental, and something therefore you can't really escape.
No, you just have to leave the house. It's not something you can do a cleansing on or something, is it?
Right. But it also, I mean, it calls into question like the nature of our environment, of our condition, because if it's true there, then it's true everywhere.
Yes.
You know, there are going to be like these sublimated and buried layers of atrocity and evil and trauma everywhere.
Well, the whole point of the sort of like the ending of Ghost Watch is that it goes way beyond that house, doesn't it? That's
the seance. I love that. I mean, that's the other thing, right? Stephen Volker's always said in interviews, like, if people had just watched to the end, they'd have got the joke. Because Parky gets possessed at the end. And by that point, they would have been like, oh, come on, right, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
You know? But people got so upset that they turned over. Or they turned it off.
I think that would have been the bit that broke it. As in that, like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a joke now. This is not a joke, but this is a performance. This isn't real. I think him when he's possessed would have you'd immediately know. I think at that point
you'd have been like, okay, I get it now. This is, and you know, Stephen Volker's always said that's what we expected. We expected at some point for people to get it, to sort of like, oh, you know, to sort of have that eureka moment where you're like, oh, I get it, and then to start watching it as drama. As fiction. But they didn't.
I think the fact, in a way, that it was never repeated kind of works against itself in that, because it never had the chance for people to watch it a second time and heal themselves by knowing that, okay, and it's fake, I get it this time.
Yeah, so it itself became this weird, almost occult artifact.
Well, it becomes like a myth, doesn't it? It's like a half-remembered thing that traumatized you as a child or whatever that you've only ever seen once and never been able to see again. So if you could watch it again the following week on catch-up, you'd watch it again and go, oh, yeah, it's clearly made up. And then that'd be it. Yeah. It wouldn't have that damage to you that it did.
I was really shocked that, because when I came to it again, and you know, this was years later, I was in my early 20s. I prepared myself. I thought, okay, so this is not going to have the impact that it had, because it doesn't have the context anymore.
Of course.
Actually, I loved it.
Oh no, I still loved it when I watched it last year.
I thought it was brilliant. I mean, as a piece of haunted house fiction, I thought it was wonderful. Very scary, very upsetting. I mean, like the subliminal glimpses of Pipes, the Spectre. And he turns up like 13 times throughout the course.
Okay. I didn't realize
there
that
a lot. In things like you see him in Reflections, and there's one, and I swear to God, it's the cleverest thing. It's that sequence, you know, when you've got Craig Charles interviewing people outside of Fox Hill Drive.
Outside, like the outside broadcast bit. Yeah.
He's right fucking there. He's like right in front of the camera. He's in the crowd, but he's right in front of the camera. And you know what? You don't see it.
Nice.
Unless you're looking for it. You just don't see it. So when you know it's there and you come back, you're like, how the fuck did I not see that?
That's good.
Isn't it brilliant? I love that. I love that kind of filmmaking where there are particularly in horror, where there are things that you don't see but are there.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that to bits. That always gives me a chill when you do go back and watch and realize.
Yeah, because it's the fact that was there and you didn't notice it. There's something that somehow chilling that you didn't realize it.
Yeah.
It's like when people say something like their mother went to the clinic on the day when Harold Shipman was working, but they didn't get him. They got a different doctor. And it's like so close to something awful have happened and you just missed it. It's that same sort of thing, isn't it? Where it's like nothing did happen, but it could have. So the idea that I sat and watched this and there was a ghost right there and I didn't see it.
Yeah.
That's quite chilling.
It's really nasty, isn't it? A lot of like when there was that eruption of the Slender Man mythos in the 2010s. A lot of the films that were created online, like Marble Hornets, do that. So you'll be watching like these videos that seem fairly innocuous, these YouTube upload videos that seem fairly innocuous. You can't really see what anything that profound. And then you watch them again and you realize, oh God, there's something there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something there. And it's really unpleasant. It's really like, oh, I don't like it. It's great. It's great. It sends a shiver up your spine. I love that stuff.
Yeah, when it's well done, that's really it's like another level of sort of horror in a way.
It's very impressive. I find it to be very impressive. And the Netflix adaptation of The Haunting of Hill House did that.
Yes, it did. Yes.
Where the hidden ghosts and things. It
does there's so many in there.
There's loads. There's more than I ever expected. And there's other things as well. So there are sequences where you get a shot that's down one of the hallways or corridors of Hill House, and there are statues against the wall, and it will pan away, then pan back, and the statues are now looking at the camera or looking at a particular bedroom door, and it's like, you don't notice it, you don't see it when you first watch.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it? I always remember there's a sequence in that where it's sort of in the past when the Cranes are all kids, when the family is in the house, and the mother discovers like some crayon writing on one of the walls, and she gets the kids in and she tells them off. And if you don't consciously see it. I never saw it when I first watched, but if you look, there's a little pale kid curled up under the table in the background.
Oh wow! Okay, so that's someone's drawing. But anything like where it's there but you didn't even see it. That's worse somehow.
I love it. I love it to bits. I wish more did it. I wish more horror filmmakers, particularly of supernatural horror, just peppered in things like that. Just dropped little spooky, weird, creepy things in their shots and in their compositions. I think it worked so well.
Yeah, it puts some value in the rewatch as well.
Yeah, totally. Because of course you're going to want to go through and watch it again, aren't you?
Once you know that, especially.
Yeah, anything like that subtext, I find that's brilliant in any kind of story. When you get to the end and you want to go back and read it again, because you're like, oh, okay, so now that I know what the mythology is or what Fight Club is a really good example of this.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
When you know what the twist is and you go back and it's true of the book and the film, you go back and you rewatch or you reread, you're like, oh yeah, it kind of, you're like, obviously, right?
Yeah, almost you can see it later there the second time round, but that's what you need. That's when the twist works, though, isn't it? When it is layered throughout, rather than just being something that's dropped in at the last minute.
Absolutely.
And, he's got an evil twin, and at no point was a twin mentioned anywhere through this film.
And also, what I find the good stories that do that have the kind of twist at one point, they don't hinge entirely and exclusively on that twist. They're still good stories, regardless.
That's what I think kind of sinks The Sixth Sense, to be honest, because that's always renowned as like a famous twist, and it is. But the film, when you watch that film knowing the twist, it's not a particularly good film.
It's not, and also
it's kind of boring.
I've never liked that film. I remember I went to the cinema to see it, and it was the same year the Blair Witch Project was released. So I saw the Blair Witch Project and then this after. And in the UK, do you remember the advertising campaign for The Sixth Sense?
Remind me.
They basically said in the UK, I think it was at UK exclusive, there were adverts saying, "Oh, scarier than the Blair Witch Project." So obviously,
it's not even a scary film. No.
I'd seen the Blair Witch Project and loved it. I just absolutely fell in love with it. So I was really excited to see this film, and nobody knew M. Night Shyamalan back then. Nobody knew him.
No, that was his first big thing, wasn't it?
Right. Nobody really knew what to expect. And I remember I went with 3 of my friends, and I remember us coming out and all of us looking at one another, and I remember one of us saying, "That was shit, wasn't it?" I was like, yeah. I really didn't like it. I thought the twist was terrible. I think I stand by it. I still think the twist is absolute garbage in The Sixth Sense. It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense.
You have to let a lot of things sort of just slide.
You really do. So he's been wandering around for a year and not noticing that people are like moving, like walking through him, or not noticing him, or not talking to him, and not interacting.
Not changed his clothes.
Yeah. The sequences where he's in the kid's home, and you don't really see his mother, but you sort of see her moving off through doors and whatnot, and you hear her voice, and it's like, what? So he's never spoken to her.
How has he been connected with this child?
Right. How? I don't. It relies upon too much, that twist, and also it breaks the film. Like as you said, when it's gone, that's it. There's no point in watching the film ever again.
No,
it destroys the film, and I find Shyamalan does that a lot with his films. Yeah. When the twist comes, it's like, oh, okay. And some of them are actively dumb. They're just actively dumb.
It's like they come up with a twist first and then just work out what story to tell.
Yeah,
let's build a story around that twist rather than, But that twist in The Sixth Sense was actually, interestingly, in the Book of Mortimer that you just read.
Oh yes, the casebook.
Yeah,
the final casebook. Yeah. But you didn't. I mean, you really avoided that becoming like the foundation of the story.
Yes, because that's what I was going to say.
Because you kind of know, right? I mean, there are certain clues littered throughout the early chapters, particularly from Harkin's perspective, where you're like, well, yeah, okay.
So this is the point, because in the very, very, very early draft of that, which I wrote we'll talk about this, but I wrote about 15 years ago.
Oh, really?
I did a version of it in which you don't find that out till the end. And I just thought, as per what we just spoke about, this doesn't work. It's so fucking obvious. There's so much convenience that has to happen. There's so many.
That's it, right? That's it.
Have to, it doesn't work. So I thought, no.
If it only occurred at the end, because of the length of the story as well, and not just the length, but the time frame of the story.
Yes.
He would have had to, Harkins would have had to have been a bit dim.
Exactly. There's no other way around it. So I just thought, let's have him figure it out quite early on. And
I like it because it gives Harkins some credit, doesn't it? It makes him. It means that the story, it's not doing the Prometheus where it relies on the characters being the dumbest people on Earth to function.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens throughout the book, though, isn't it? Because you've got characters who they're immersed in the supernatural, right? I mean, Harkins is from a very young age, obviously, because of his capabilities. So they just allow for it. They just sort of accept it. And Grimm obviously hasn't got much choice. He doesn't have much choice but to accept the supernatural.
So I'll just give a bit of background about this book, just so people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, of course.
So this is a book I wrote about 15 years ago, and as we've just sort of hinted at, it's about a detective named Harkins who has got some psychic ability. He can see the dead and whatnot, but he is not brought up in a life that favors such things. So he kind of spends most of his life.
Yeah, as you'll know when you read the book, guys, that's a bit of an understatement.
So he spends most of his life sort of drinking it away or taking opium or one thing or another. But then eventually, excuse me, he, as an adult, he ends up working with a ghost named Mortimer Grimm, who was an occultist himself, and the two of them kind of form a partnership and start solving stuff across London, with the ultimate goal being solving the case that got Grimm killed, basically.
Yeah. It's very fractious as well, their partnership, isn't it? Because Grimm's a bit of an arsehole, isn't he? He's like a very thorny, he's a very thorny character, and Harkins himself is not, Harkins is warmer than Grimm is.
Yes.
But he's still got jagged edges a little bit, doesn't he? He's not he's had a bit of a difficult time Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that was kind of deliberate because the trope of the Victorian detective, because that's when it's set, the late 1890s. That the trope is that they're always quite like posh and upper class and very well spoken, and I'm like,
bumptious, and the Arthur
what
Conan
if we have
Doyle
someone
thing,
who's
right?
not that? What if we have someone who's from like the other side of the city, so to speak? Who's a bit more rough around the edges and that kind of a background.
Sort of operates in the, so it's got like it's sort of Sherlock Holmes via way of Dickens and Lovecraft, isn't it? It's got that feeling about it.
Yeah, I think if that works, then that makes me happy because that was the intention.
Yeah,
but it was. Yeah, I wrote this so many years ago, and then just couldn't find a publisher for it at that time. So I kind of moved on to other things and just shelved it as you do.
Right?
And then just got a bunch of other stuff published over the years. And as you'll have noticed yourself, once you've had one thing published, it's easier to get other things published.
Oh yeah.
So I did then find a publisher for it, and it was due to be released about 5 years ago. And then that publisher started publishing books by quite a well-known sort of anti-trans feminist commentator. And I didn't want to be on the same publishing sort of house as that. It's that thing, like, what people as a writer sort of believe in their private life is not my business. Like, I could reconcile myself if I was being published by Penguin Random House, who also published J.K. Rowling, because but that's her views in her life. But it wasn't that. It was the book itself was about that kind of thing. So, like, you are actively making money from promoting like hate and values that I strongly disagree with. And like, if you are willing as a company to be not just making money from someone who believes this in their private life, but you're making money from promoting that.
Yeah, of course.
That's a whole other level of problem.
So it was a dilemma for you, yeah? It was
not for very long. I withdrew the same day I found out about it, but which did lose me a fair amount of money because it was quite a good contract. But to be honest, you sit with your conscience more than you do with your bank balance. So
yeah, it's true. Massive commendations for that, by the way. Huge kudos for that. It's and it's worked out well, right? You found a new home for it.
I did. I left again, parked it for a few years, and did some other things, and then came back to it and found a publisher. And it's the same publisher who released my book, The Other Side of the Mirror, which is done nicely. So that was a nice home for it. So it's finally is actually out and available to buy, which has taken a long time, but it feels like the completion of something. I mean, there are more books in the series to be written, but it's just getting that first one is just. It just feels like an achievement in itself at this point.
Yeah, of course. And of course, I mean, one of the things you've done with this one is you've really established what the mythology, or like the tone of this series is going to be. And it's structured very like the Arthur Conan Doyle stories, isn't it? Where you've got cases which are almost like little sub-stories in and of themselves. And then you've got like running threads throughout that build up to the final case, the final chapter. Which is Grimm's story, isn't it? It's where he comes from, and like it's the culmination of his story.
Yeah, I wanted to do it episodic. That was very deliberate because I love reading books like that, where each chapter is a separate thing, but it all ties together to a larger whole. I really enjoy reading books like that. Especially because not many of us have time to sit and read a book all in one go. So you're generally reading a couple of chapters a day.
You get like your own. It's almost like it has almost the ethos of a short story collection, but also with a wider running mythology and story and
that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, so you can, and they're very short as well, aren't they? Most of the cases are quite short and pithy, so you can sort of dive in and read maybe a case or two a night or a case or two an evening, and it's very palatable in that regard. It's very easy to digest.
Well, I didn't want to flesh out any of the stories, you see. So like if something was a case that only needed 10 pages, then it's a 10-page chapter. But if something's a 30-page one, then it's a 30-page one. They are what they need to be to tell the story that I wanted to tell, really.
Yeah, and I like the influences you draw on as well for them, because like there's a lot of images where I was like, oh yes, I know the reference. I get what you're referring to there. because you draw in so much stuff. There's obviously like a lot of Victoriana, huge amount of Victoria, because it's set in Victoria. So what I love the way what you've done is taken not the history but the myth, like the stories of Victoriana.
It's a very fictionalized version of
it's
that
very
time.
Penny Dreadful, isn't it? It's very Penny Dreadful in that regard. It's like it's the Victorian ghost story, but with some, I mean, some of the elements are very sort of postmodern as well. I mean, like I like the story with the fungus. And the creature that the chap who's possessed by it becomes is very reminiscent of Birkin, right?
Oh, that was deliberate from Resident Evil. I thought, imagine having something like that in a Victorian sort of townhouse. That just, it's very, instead of a modern lab, you know, that kind of.
And also, I mean, that one's also a Cthulhu mythos story, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
it's a very subtle sort of Cthulhu mythos reference.
Yeah, that was very deliberate. Just that idea of the world seemed bigger in Victorian times. I say that as if we lived there. We didn't, but do you know what I mean? In that, like, for instance, something I didn't discover until last year, I think it was, when I was reading this diary, is that gorillas weren't scientifically recognized until like the middle of the Victorian period. They were like a mythical animal. If you go to the jungles, there's this giant ape that's like acts kind of like a human in some ways, and it's about 8 foot tall.
People you would have got pushback, wouldn't you? You would have got, and then they did. You know, I mean, the people who talked about these creatures and talked about them in human terms were absolutely excoriated.
Exactly that, which is why it's not a million miles away from saying I found an island and it's full of dinosaurs. Or, you know, these things which now you think, shut up, you know, that's not true, unless you're one of them idiots who thinks the world's flat or whatever. But for most people, the world is a closed book now. We know what's there. We know what isn't there. You can't come back with these outlandish stories. But in Victorian times, you could. And I think, therefore, when you start doing stuff like that story where I've brought this statue home from my travels, and then as soon as you put it in the house, weird shit starts happening. That seems more plausible in Victorian times.
Yeah. And also, again, I mean, it's very sort of historically accurate as well, because what happens in Victoriana, right? You do get that explosion of spiritualism and of occultism and of, because people are looking for it, right? As the world is shrinking, as the parameters of the world are being pushed back by scientific discovery and rationalism, you're starting to get this response from people in the form of spiritualism, occultism, ritual magic, cults and movements and whatnot, all of which are very akin to what happens in this book. All you've done is make it literal. You've made it like, you know, it's like,
it's real.
This is real, basically. This is like...
As opposed to shysters taking advantage of people.
Although they're there too, right? They are there
too.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. Something I have Harkins himself point out a couple of times is he tries to eliminate the rational stuff first.
Yes.
So, like, I think in the one you just mentioned with the mold, I think the first thing he does is try to cover off, have you got leaky pipes? Have you got this? Have you got... Because it's like, half the time when he turns up to someone's house, it is something like that.
It is something like that, yeah. I mean, I think the guy, the father of the household, he reacts quite sniffily about it. Yeah. He says, like, oh, you know, what are you accusing me of? I'm not this, I'm not that. This is something... He's very insistent. This is something weird and out there and supernatural. And he's absolutely right. You know, he's absolutely right as it transpires.
I also think there's something about that kind of Victorian, you know, stiff upper lip, closed doorness, that having something like a haunting is like such a violation in a way of like your sanctity, your, you know, British man's home is his castle and all that. And now something's happening which you have no ability to stop.
I like that. There's a furtiveness to it all. Like the area that Harkins and Grimm operate in. It's not like Sherlock Holmes, you know, who operates in kind of polite society, doesn't he? You know.
Yeah.
These guys, they're in the. It's more Dickensian. They're in the depths, right? They're in the. It's the poverty. It's the whorehouses. It's the opium dens. It's the docks, right? There's a couple of stories on the docks. Yeah, and it's the filth, it's the darkness, it's the ambiguity, right? It's a world where violence is kind of de rigueur, right? It's just baked in. There's quite a lot of violence here. In fact, a lot of the ghosts and spirits or phenomena that you encounter are as a result of that, right?
Yeah, it's the kind of side of the world that people don't think about when they're kind of glamorizing the Victorian side.
Yeah.
Like, when people sort of like idolize it a bit, and when you see it like on Doctor Who and that kind of thing, it's always like the opposite side of the tracks, isn't it? It's the ballrooms, it's the top hats, it's the
That's it. That's right. It's the frost fairs and that kind of thing. Where you're seeing the romanticized side of it all. But what you've done is gone for the Dickensian stuff, which is it's the underclasses, right? And
well, that was deliberate, really cool. Because I feel like even if there was any kind of belief from the authorities that this stuff was real, they wouldn't care, given that these are the people it's happening to.
Of course, right. They'd be like,
because it's poor people, it's working class people. They don't care. If it was happening to the upper classes, then they'd give a shit. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think you can kind of lean into the sort of the social politics aspect of it a bit with that.
Harkins has got that about him.
People.
Harkins has got that about him, hasn't he? He's got a very sort of scrappy. He's not really part of this society, is he? He's kind of down and out at the beginning. I mean, he's got no profession per se. He's got no money, or I mean, he's even like outcast from his family, isn't he? So he's kind of got nothing when he turns up on Grimm's doorstep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's made some attempt at being a private detective, but
with limited success.
Well, I mean, it's not a spoiler because it's in the opening scene, but he kills somebody because he's haunted. He sees ghosts. He always has, and he's used to block them out. But there's these two little girls who were drowned by their uncle, and he tries to follow the normal route of getting him, arrested, following police procedure, and this guy is too well connected, and he just can't make the case stick. So
he's got money and influence, so there's nothing anybody can do.
Yeah, but Harkins is still seeing these two dead little girls who cannot rest. They are stuck in this perpetual state of like their final moments.
Yes, that's part of the mythology, isn't it? Actually, of the metaphysics that you set up. So ghosts in this particular mythology, particularly the ones that manifest strongly, that like you can see specters and phenomena. It's because there's something that needs to be done, right? There's something unfinished that needs to be resolved.
And Harkins deals with that by putting a bullet in this guy's head, and that's kind of it settles the matter for the ghost, but it kind of he covers his tracks in such a way that he can't be arrested.
Everybody knows that he did it. Right?
Exactly.
Like everybody knows that he did it. So he's suddenly like persona non grata. And it's one of the interesting things to think about is where he might have ended up if Grimm hadn't like taken him in.
Yeah, it'd have just been a downward spiral, I think.
It would, wouldn't it? He would have been found. He would have become one of those ghosts that you talk about in the opium dens.
Yeah,
the ones that are made of the smoke, and like they're because they're trapped in their final moments. They died on an opium high, so they're just sort of like bewildered and lost, and they can't tell what reality is or anything.
I really like that image when I came up with that.
It's nice. I like that.
That'd look great.
I think you could like that's one of the images where you could take it and run with it and make like a whole mythology out of that. Like a whole story could come out of that.
Yeah, it's. I often get like an image stuck in my head and want to do something with it. And I remember picturing the opium den with the sort of the greenish ghosts in there, and just thinking, I like this. I need to do something with it. I
like it. And again, it's like it's another nice reference, not only to Victorian society, because the opium dens were an absolute thing, and they are. They were odd places as well, because they're kind of like that. They're that area where the rich and the poor kind of commingled. It's
like a great leveler, isn't it?
Yeah, very strange, like class dynamic you've got in the opium dens. But it's also another nice reference to things like one of the recurrent and sort of underlying things is Jack the Ripper mythology, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
it's quite key.
It is absolutely key, isn't it? Because like the murders of Whitechapel are all part and parcel, and they're established quite early, but they run through, right, until the final story. It's the final story where you really sort of understand what's happening and why, and what sort of like the ritual significance of it all is. So, and I like the way you go for like very, very literally the mythology of Jack the Ripper and not the history, which is cool.
Yes.
I really like that, because you go for like the stories of Jack the Ripper, the pervasive story that he was the royal physician.
Yeah, I thought that was, again, because there's a lot of sort of class war stuff in this book. Mm-hmm. Like we've already been speaking about. And I think the idea that the ultimate villain, if you like, is actually from what you would quote unquote call the right side of the tracks.
Yeah. Like
I thought that kind of fit with what,
as close to the royal family as it's possible to be without being one of them, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there is kind of that get out in that it's not technically his fault.
It's not technically him. No, it's a demon, isn't it? It's an entity.
Yeah, but it's that I think that kind of follows with the narrative sort of theme that it's not good and bad isn't as simple as that scruffy looking person who's just robbed you is the bad guy. Well, they might be desperate. Right. But at the same time, that horrible looking ghost who's bleeding from its eyes, the person who killed it is the bad guy, not the ghost.
Yes, I mean that's the other thing, right? A lot of the phenomena are sort of like laid to rest rather than exorcised or dispelled, aren't they? They're not the antagonists, right? I mean, you see that with the first story on the docks, with the policeman ghost, the mist.
Yeah.
Where, because Harkins is actually he's very unsettled by the notion of a ghost killing someone. He's very unsettled by that. He doesn't like it at all, does he? But I mean, and that's one of the early indicators that Grimm is a ghost as well, isn't it? Because it's like Grimm is like, no, this is why you're here. This is what we have to facilitate, not stop.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like being a kind of a lawyer, as in what a lawyer's supposed to be when they're not just being paid an insane amount of money by terrible people. But it's like you're supposed to deal with the right thing is supposed to happen. It doesn't matter who either of those parties is.
Yeah, you're so almost like, Harkins is almost like a representative, isn't he? That's what he's their he's like their solicitor, isn't he? He's like their advocate in a way.
Yeah, so sometimes the ghost is wrong here. It's like, okay, something bad happened to you 20 years ago, but everyone you've killed since then, that's not okay.
That's not
but other times it's like they literally just want the person who killed them, and you think that's kind of fair. That's reasonable,
Yeah. And of course, other things are not ghosts at all. There's a wide, because you draw on such a wide range of different mythologies and references. Yeah. There's a lot going on here. I mean, I particularly like the Genesis engine stuff.
Oh yes,
I liked that. I thought that was really cool. The notion, because that introduced almost like a cyberpunky thing, or rather steampunky thing.
I almost took that story out.
I like it
so many times, but
I really like it. It gave me like a H.G. Wells vibe.
Yes,
it was like venturing into the that adventure science fiction that was so profound at the time. You had Jules Verne, you had H.G. Wells doing his stuff. I kind of liked it. I thought it introduced a different quality and also a different notion of what ghosts are.
I was just going to say, we once did an episode of this show about that, about what different ghosts might look like in different like futures, like with technology and one thing or another. And it kind of, when I reread it recently, it put me in mind of that, because it's like this guy. Just to clarify the story, it's basically an automaton who thinks he's the man who created him. So it's like he's possessed by his own ghost in a way, isn't he? That's it's fundamentally.
It's one of those things where it's like it's very science fiction in that it broaches all sorts of questions on like what consciousness is, and and what, because like he's effectively a kind of AI, I suppose. He's an algorithm, isn't he? He's not really the person, but he thinks he is. He has the qualities of that person. So it's like, Jesus. It's very sad at the end as well, that one. It's one of the saddest stories.
Yeah, there's no nice resolution to that.
No, it's And of course, I mean, that's the one that also sparks the big argument, isn't it? The big argument between Harkins and Grimm, which was almost inevitable. Because they are friends, they get on. And Grimm's very taken with Harkins, isn't he? But they are, just because of their natures, right? They're just prickly people, aren't they?
Yes.
They don't make friends easily. They don't keep friends easily, and they clash as much as they gel. These guys.
Yeah, I think that was not in the first draft, but I think adding that layer of these guys don't always get on. I think that was I was quite pleased with that decision. I think it
Yeah,
added
I think
another
it
layer
works.
to it.
I think it works because, like, you've got initially you are going. I think readers are going to assume, because I assume this, that Grimm was going to be the dominant one. You know, because he's the older one, he's the more experienced one. He seems to be a bit more not, powerful than Harkins is. He does a couple of things early on which are very magical and very occult. You know, the gas lamp lighter where he lights the final, with his powers, with his occult powers.
Yeah. So the thing with that is, I mean, it does explain this in the book, but it's the ghosts, like you said earlier, they have different, like, what they're capable of is determined by, like, what their purpose for being here is, really.
Yes, yeah.
And Grimm's purpose is quite a grandiose one, so he's capable of far more than most other ghosts are, but he does have limitations.
He does. He's more coherent than most ghosts, isn't he? Because most of them, they're very limited, they're very finite in what they can do and how they can operate, and even how they can think, right?
Yes. Yeah,
whereas Grimm's a full consciousness, isn't he? You know, he is aware of himself, and he knows who he was when he was alive, and he's aware that he has a purpose, but he's also able to branch out. He's able to sort of draw other operatives in, like Maria, like Harkins.
Well, one of the scenes I remember writing for Grimm quite early on, I can't remember which chapter this is in, but it's what shows you that he does have limitations, and his purpose here is strictly to train a replacement to help him find his murderer, and that's quite a broad stroke, but anything that doesn't relate to that is denied to him. So there's a scene where he goes into the kitchen and he's going to brew a pot of tea, and Harkins just finds him there 10 minutes later staring at the cupboard, and he's like, I have no recollection of how to make a cup of tea.
How to make a cup of tea, because it's not salient, right? It's just
not necessary, purpose, so it's denied to him.
In fact, it just put me in mind. That's one of the early clues, isn't it? It's one of the you don't know at that point. You don't know. You could maybe assume at that point that Grimm is getting old, or maybe is ill.
He's got Alzheimer's or something. Yeah, that's what it put me in mind of when I wrote that scene. I tried to think of those kind of things where you see people who something that should be so obvious is now denied to them, and the cruelty of that, like how horrible that is to experience that.
Which in a way is true, isn't it, of Grimm and all ghosts, right? It's kind of true because they lose so much of themselves. Grimm's kind of fortunate in that he's got a little bit, but even then, like his physical world is really limited, isn't it? He always snaps back to his offices, doesn't he? If he strays beyond the boundaries of where he's meant to be, of what he's anchored to, which ultimately becomes Harkins, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah, when he goes out with Harkins, he can go anywhere, but if he's on his own, he can't.
Yeah, he can't go much further than like down the street, right? And he just snaps back to the office, which makes him a really sad figure. You know, there are a couple of instances where he can't follow Harkins, or he can't like access a place because of certain circumstances, because he's a ghost. You know, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool. And then there are other times when like some people can see him or can operate with him, like the lighthouse keeper. Because of their peculiar circumstances. It's the Lydia Dietz thing, isn't it? You know.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I like that, because I like the way you've got to, as the writer, you had to stay in mind of that as you were writing. So there were certain like limitations that forced the story. It's kind of cool, you know.
Yeah, I think
it lends its shape, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You kind of need to decide what your mythology is going to be, I guess, and play with that. So, like, for me, the idea that, okay, this is a world where ghosts and all that other kind of stuff is real, and our main character is someone who can interact with all that stuff. But London's a big place. He's not going to be the only person there who has this ability. Just statistically, that's you know, if you're saying some psychic people are actually real in this world and not shysters, you're gonna have a few. Just even if it was 1%. You're gonna encounter a few in this world.
Absolutely, and there are like variations in how those abilities manifest, right? So some people aren't even like technically aware. It's just like it's like a vague intuition, right? Whereas other people like Maria are just like crazy, like almost sorceress, like you know, almost magical.
Yes, yeah. So Maria is sort of like the love interest, if you like, and she is vastly like Harkins' psychic ability kind of starts and ends with being able to see ghosts, more or less. Whereas with her, she's like your full sort of Jean Grey sort of level from the X-Men sort of stuff. That's she's a far more adept at that than him, and both knowledge in terms of knowledge and her ability. And something that's quite I should point out with regard to the later books is that one of them is written by Maria herself.
Yes, yeah.
So I think that's the third one. I'm currently working on a draft of the second book. So, and something you notice there, and this is deliberate, and I've done a lot of work, and hopefully it'll pay off when I get to that book, to make this viable, is that she comes across slightly different in that.
Oh, that's cool.
Because everything in this book is written
impression of her, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's what I was going to say. Everything in this book is written as Harkins's journal.
Yeah, and his perspective is necessarily like kind of all over the place because he's like in love with her. So it's a
very
distorted
biased
perspective. It's a distorted perspective of her. So that's very interesting.
There's an episode of Frasier which is a masterclass in this. I'm assuming you've watched Frasier.
Yeah, I've watched Frasier. I was a student in the early 2000s. Of course, I watched Frasier.
Me too. Yeah, I think it was a Christmas episode, and you see the same story 3 times.
Yes.
Once is from Niall's perspective, once is from Frasier's, and once is from Martin's, and you see literally the same conversations, but they are different each time, as per that person's internal biases and what they think of each person. So someone like Frasier thinks is really rude and horrible. They come across that way, but then when it's Martin's perspective and he doesn't see them that way, they come across really nice. And it's literally, and it's that everything you are seeing in this book, the first book, it's from Harkins's perspective.
Yes, it's his journal.
All you are seeing.
It's his journal. So, I mean, there's a potential. I mean, like, there's even potential here for like Grimm to have a journal, right, or to have a book. Yeah,
I had considered possibly down the line doing one that takes place when he was alive.
Yeah, because he's basically like Harkins is literally his replacement. So there's a whole wealth of stories to tell, isn't there? Like in his life, his previous life, leading up to his eventual murder.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Grimm is that like he was an occultist. He was very, very rich, and he wanted. He had that unusual thing for people who were born wealthy, in that he had a social conscience. And
he's an unusual. I mean, he's a bit different from Harkins in that regard, isn't he?
Yes,
because he is an occultist. Like Harkins is kind of reluctantly, like he's born into this. He doesn't have any choice, does he?
Yeah.
But Grimm seeks it out. Right. Grimm is like he's like he's like what Aleister Crowley proclaimed to be, even though he wasn't, the sorcerer, like an actual magus.
Yes, so he had a family tragedy very young. He lost his brother, and he was obsessed with that, kind of got in his head the idea that what if he's not gone, and all of that. So like he invested himself in this, as you said, very early on, and that he like knows everything about all the different rituals and the different beings and the different things.
He's very versed, isn't he? He's very, like a wealth, like a reservoir of knowledge.
But he gets himself killed, so he's not like some untouchable expert. He's not as street smart as Harkins.
No,
like
nowhere near.
If Harkins is getting into something that's going to be physical, he's quite capable of handling that, whereas Grimm wasn't so much.
Really wasn't, no, unless he's like very well prepared.
Yeah,
he probably wasn't much good in that kind of circumstance, was he?
No, it wasn't his forte. Whereas with like Harkins, is that he is a detective and he is smart, but if he can get his answer out of you quicker by breaking your teeth, then
that's what he'll do. Yeah, that he's much more like functional than Grimm is.
Yes,
that's what he's about, isn't it? He's about the bottom line, ultimately.
Yes.
And there's a couple of instances where he just completely ignores Grimm. Like Grimm wants to do the subtle thing, Grimm wants to do it the proper way, and Harkins is like, fucking, no. I'm just gonna hit the guy. I'm just gonna hurt him until I get the answer I want.
Yeah, and but again, the fact that always seems to work and it always turns out great. Yeah. Harkins is right in this.
Yeah.
That's very. It's like the unreliable narrator to a point. You know, like how much can you trust this? Like
Yes,
when it's someone,
one of the more interesting things that you could do is like when you're writing like Maria's book is like take the same stories that she occurs in, and like it wasn't quite like that. It didn't
I was
quite
thinking of
happen that way, you know?
Yeah, referencing things from previous ones that are not quite as you might have read them previously. And
it's a nice idea. It's a really nice idea. And I mean, the other thing, of course, that you establish with Harkins is he is kind of unreliable as a narrator. You know, he's not like mentally all there, is he? He's had his issues. He's like, you know, he's had various addictions. He's been down and out. He's had things, you know.
Yeah, he is. He's a damaged individual from an economic background and in a time of the world where there was no help for that.
Right. Well, you know, were it not for his inborn capabilities, then I mean, he probably would, like you say, he probably would have been a ghost himself by this point.
Yeah, he wouldn't have got past 30. No, it's like it would have been the worst time imaginable to have any sort of mental health problems.
Oh God! Well, I mean, at that point in Victoriana, there would have been like one or two like schools, like very niche schools of academia and medicine that would have acknowledged their existence. But beyond that, I mean, there wouldn't have been any help. I mean, it would have been the help you would have got would have largely been nonsense. You know, it would have made things a million times worse.
It's just kind of lock people away and forget about them.
Yes,
don't they?
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if you are, and also it's Victoriana, so there's the whole prescriptive nature of that culture where everything was very set and standard. You operated in this way, and if you strayed, then you were filth, you were scum, you were worthy of either locking away or preferably death, so they don't have to feed you, right?
Well, it's the idea of the deserving and the undeserving, isn't it? Which is a very Victorian thing.
Very Victorian, yeah, very Victorian. And Harkins just isn't part of that. He's just not. He's so outside of that culture. And he's aware of the fact that he's outside of it, that there's a kind of like cheery nihilism to him sometimes where he doesn't really, you know, what his bravery a lot of the time is he just doesn't really care that much, you know, unless Maria's involved, right?
Yeah, you can say what you want to him about his social situation and it'll wash off his back. But Maria, who is a Romany, gets even more grief than he does, and he won't. But of course, the thing is, he doesn't need to protect her. Maria can kill you just looking at you. But
he does not need to protect Maria. No, he damn well doesn't.
But it's that cultural thing again. But you see, that I wanted to play with sort of like the cultural norms there. So, like for a start, having this guy who he's from the poor side of London, if you like, but he doesn't have any particular aspirations to join the wealthy side.
No.
But at the same time,
suppose at the beginning he's seen it, hasn't he? He's seen what the wealthy side is like, so he's like, "Fuck that," you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Screw them assholes, you know. I get the impression that he would be very sort of like working class in his politics if he had any. I mean, his concerns are sort of like more on the metaphysical side, aren't they? But if he had politics, it would be very working class. It would be very kind of like leaning towards the socialist, wouldn't it?
It is. You see more of that in the second book because if you towards the end, he inherits Grimm's fortune. If you remember that,
right.
So you start seeing a lot more of what he's doing with that and everything in this, how that comes into play in the second book.
I mean, spoilers, guys. We're going to assume that you've read the book. The links are below.
Yeah, we can't really.
No,
I can't really discuss it.
Right. But I also assume that in the upcoming books, there's the whole existential thing of like what he is now, because he's by the end, he's not human anymore, right? He's something else.
No, so again, spoilers, but we just said we're going to
assume you've read it, guys.
So the final chapter deals with the return of the thing that killed Grimm, which is a kind of a body hopping demon, if you like. And the latest body it's in is this royal surgeon. And the way this demon manifests is to start with, it just starts making you a little bit more violent than you normally would be, a little bit more angry. And it's kind of like builds and builds and builds until you are like a raging monster. And so it is Jack the Ripper is the final sort of form of it. And they do a ritual, Harkins and Grimm, to kill this demon, which involves firstly it's extremely strong. It's like the most powerful thing Grimm ever come across.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing you've got to do is drain that power out of it, and then you kill it, basically.
Yeah.
But the ritual gets messed up.
Yes.
So they get the power out of it, but it goes into Harkins. So he's not possessed by a demon, but he basically has the power of one.
Yeah.
And as the book ends, like you just suggested, you don't know what that's going to mean.
What it means for him, right? As like what are the psychological effects? What are like the ongoing effects of this?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, there are many, and it's not positive. That's
that's kind of built up through the book, isn't it? Because you get like this foreboding all the way through.
Yeah.
There is Harkins absolutely disavows it. He doesn't have any truck with like things like destiny or fate or anything like that. But there is this suggestion all the way through the book that he's headed somewhere really bad. The mold kind of says that to him, doesn't it? Because like the mold is it basically devours destiny. It devours the parts of your life, doesn't it? And the mold doesn't want him.
No.
It's kind of
eats him. Is like, nope.
It's like, nah, I don't want anything to do with you, man. And I mean, Grimm actually says to him, doesn't he? Doesn't that like that should concern you?
Yeah.
You know, that should really concern. But again, Harkins is kind of like, you know.
I think if you had his background, though, you wouldn't think that much about the future. You'd probably assume you were going to die in your early 30s. You wouldn't think there was anything big and important waiting for you, would you?
Of course, he's not that guy either. He's just not that guy. He's very like practical, very pragmatic. Ironically, despite all of these like metaphysical capabilities that he has, he's really immediate. You know, he's about what he can do in the moment.
Do you think that works as a reader? Because that was the intention, is to do that.
I like it. I think it's unusual because you know, there is a tendency to write characters like Harkins a bit more hairy-fairy, isn't there? You know, a bit more like, you know, abstract and weird and lost and immersed in the, you know, the metaphysics of it all. But Harkins isn't. Harkins views it in a very sort of nuts and bolts kind of way.
There is two things which kind of created the very, very early genesis of this character. Just two things that kind of stuck in my head, which came to build exactly what you just described. One of which was, it's a film that it's not a good film, but it's there's a film called Ghost Town, which Ricky Gervais did.
Right.
And it's about this guy who has a car accident and can see ghosts, basically. It's meant to be comedy. It's not particularly funny, but there is one scene on it which really stuck in my head so this guy who can see ghosts, he's sat on a park bench, and someone who's clearly a ghost because they're like run over comes and sits next to him on the park bench, like about to ask for help, and he just looks at him and goes, "Oh God, what?" And it's like that mundanity of he's dealing with this shit all the time, and it's not like a ghost, and it's not like a how can I help you? It's just, oh, for fuck's sake,
it's
what?
Like, Jesus Christ, you know, it's like I've been, because it's kind of becomes a job, doesn't it? You know, it becomes a thing that he just does, right? And so it does wear on him a little bit sometimes. He gets annoyed, right?
That was part of it, and the other was the character of Agent Doggett in the X-Files.
Right.
So if you remember him, so you've got Mulder and Scully, who are both very entrenched in their positions.
Yes.
So you've got Scully, who is the diehard skeptic. She could be staring at an alien spaceship, and she'd insist it was swamp gas or something.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mulder, who will walk into a room and find a door slightly ajar, insisting it was a ghost.
It was an alien or a ghost or a conspiracy or whatever.
But then you've got Doggett, who just deals with whatever's in front of him. He doesn't have any particular attachment to supernatural stuff being real or not being real. But if what he's looking at is a supernatural being, then he'll deal with it as a supernatural being. And I really liked that character. I thought that is interesting. What if you get a guy up against this stuff and he's just like a soldier? He just deals with this. Whatever it is, he deals with it.
It's almost like Harkins is great because he reduces it to like a technical exercise.
Yes.
Which I think upsets Grimm sometimes. I get the impression Grimm is annoyed by that, you know.
Yeah, he wants the wider sort of, well, what does this mean? And what's this, you know, what's the grander meaning of all this?
Grimm's
and how it's
more
all
romantic,
connected.
isn't he? Grimm is ultimately more of a romantic than Harkins is, you know?
Yeah, very much so. I wanted Harkins to be more like this is just a thing that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
These are people that need help, so that's what I'm going to
So
do.
that's
But
it,
he
right?
doesn't care about the wider implications of ghosts or
He's the
demons or
how,
anything
isn't
like
he?
that.
He's all the how.
Yeah.
How do I deal with this? How is this solved as a puzzle, as a conundrum? But the why doesn't really bother him that much.
No, and I think that is, well, from my point, it was a very deliberate choice for his character, because the traditional character you would have in this kind of a world would be who Mortimer Grimm is.
Yeah,
But the fact of
they get bogged down in the details, right?
But the fact of he's dead and gone and someone else is taking over for him, that kind of felt almost like I don't know. It's almost like pushing the old version of this aside and saying, "No, we're not doing that anymore."
There is a sense, certainly in the early chapters, that like you're coming in media res, almost like there's a whole story that's been told, and now like it's been reluctantly abandoned because the guy was murdered, and so he has he has no choice but to bring someone else in. And I mean, early on, there's very much the sense that Harkins is kind of an invader. He's not very happy about having to do this, Grimm, but it's just the way things have to be.
Again, it's like being old and having a carer, isn't it? When you get someone who's always been very independent and very proud and whatnot, and now they can't do things. Yeah,
that's so the vibe you get off Grimm. But of course he warms to him. He does warm to him. I mean, they're as friendly as I think those two men are ever going to be.
Yeah. There's always going to. I mean, again, it's Victorian England and it's two men, isn't it? So there's always going to be a straight.
There's tension. There's a lot of tension there. It doesn't make it any less sad when they do fall out.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's. I mean, you want it to be. I certainly want it to be like impactful when they part ways for a few chapters.
And I get it. I mean, like I get it. Grimm. I like what Harkins says to him. It's like you're like every other fucking ghost. You're so myopic. You can't see past your intentions or your purposes. Which is fair, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I really tried to think about with Grimm, like what it would actually be like to be a ghost, like from their perspective. Like I was saying before about the not being able to make a cup of tea, and I think he mentions at one point that he can't remember his mother's face.
Yes, he does. He does mention something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think from their perspective, and again, the Haunting of Hill House that we mentioned earlier, he does a really good job of that, like making you think from the ghost perspective.
Yeah.
Like what that would be like living. And he even shows it here in
what is reality from the perspective of these entities, Yeah,
and I think that's there's another film that does that. Was it The Others?
Yeah. The Others is funnily enough, that is based on it's based on The Turn of the Screw. Henry James's
I would
book.
say about it. Okay, I can see that, I guess.
Very loosely, because it's kind of, I mean, it's weird. There's a whole chain there because The Others is based on The Innocents, which is a film adaptation of The Turn of the Screw.
Right. So it's kind of an adaptation of an adaptation. Yeah. I get you.
But it's that thing of distorted reality, isn't it? Where reality seems to be kind of absolute and rational and it makes sense, but it's not quite. It's distorted. There's actually something.
The time slips through me. I felt quite sad about that on the Haunting of Hill House, where she's not quite sure what time she's in. Is this 5 years ago? Is this now? Is this because it doesn't matter anymore if you're a ghost? You're not tethered, are you? So
atemporal. Yeah, it just doesn't mean anything anymore. You've lived it. You've done it.
But your consciousness is still that of a human being. So how do you possibly cope with that?
How do you cope with it? Well, I mean, the answer in The Haunting of Hill House is you don't. Right?
No.
It's a kind of madness. It's awful. It's so
that's what
metaphysics
they do with.
Is so dark.
Did you ever watch any of Supernatural?
Yeah, of course I did.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got like two of the sexiest men on television.
Well, actually, I wasn't going to say, but my then boyfriend described it. He sold it to me. He said, "Hot guys, great monsters." I was like,
that's fine. A good, nice car as well.
Yeah,
but so do you remember when Bobby died?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they build up this whole thing throughout the seasons of ghosts are just like angry and they don't even remember what they're angry at. But you've only ever seen them as an antagonist, right? But then Bobby, one of the good guys, he dies and sticks around as a ghost. But he starts getting angry and violent. And they have to deal with him because he says to him at like one point, he literally says to Dean, like he's in tears as a ghost, and he's like, I don't know what this rage is.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm angry at. I can't even remember, but I just want to hurt everything. And it's like he's becoming the very things that they've been fighting.
They've been fighting against,
and it's like there's a tragedy to that. That like
it's very
you had a reason to be angry. You were murdered and you were angry at a particular person, but then as you don't have a brain anymore. You don't have chemicals in your body. You don't have anything. So it just all that's left is that emotion, which is anger, and you can't even remember what caused it.
Yeah, it's very sad. I mean, it is, again, it's redolent of like certain aspects of dementia and of Alzheimer's. You know, that happens. You know, the paranoia, the anger, the inability to like inhibit or to control emotion. It's very incredibly sad. It's an incredibly sad perspective on like, because also, I mean, like the other thing is that it's potentially eternal as well, which is like,
if you don't have someone like Harkins who can help you with that, you are just, that is you forever.
That's you, right? You're just repeating the same patterns and cycles over and over again, especially if you don't have like the coherence of ghosts like Grimm. Where you can sort of stray outside the bounds a little bit, where you can think creatively. Most of them can't, right?
No, and they couldn't even articulate what they need help with.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
So Harkins has to sort of infer it, doesn't he?
Yes, and then you have that dilemma of who's actually in the wrong here.
Yeah, right. And I mean, is it right to facilitate what the ghost wants? That's the other thing, right?
Well, because ghosts inherently were people, and people are complicated.
Yes, and maybe their unfinished business is awful. You know, maybe it's something that's immoral or terrible.
That's a good point. You never consider that really, but that's another thing. Yeah,
it's an interesting, it's an interesting conundrum, that one. I like it a lot.
And
but no, it's fun. It's a fun read as well. I mean, was it fun to write?
Yeah, it really was, and I tried to kind of make it. I mean, fun doesn't mean funny, you know. I mean,
there are moments that are funny, because like the badinage between Grimm and Harkins is often funny because they needle one another. You know, they argue. They spike at one another all the time.
I kind of wanted to give it quite a good pace, and again, the journal aspect of it helps with that, because
it really does, because it's
you're not going to write
you know,
exactly that, George. You're not going to sit and, you know, like some Victorian books are guilty of like, I've read 5 pages of this novel and all I know is what the wallpaper looks like, because he's gone into detail about that.
Dracula's very like that.
It is, but you're not going to write like that in your journal. No. You just get to a bloody point.
Do you know who the arch lord of that is in our sphere? It's Lovecraft, isn't it? Let's be honest, some of his stories are, you know, I love a lot of his work, I really do, but my relationship with him is complex, and some of them, the epistemological stuff, a lot of the time when he's writing, like, it's like, people that's not how it works, Howard. You know, that's not how it works, Howard.
I think, is it the Mountain of Madness? Or like, I could describe you in detail the inside of that base camp. It's not
Jesus Christ!
Howard, just get on with it.
It's funny you should mention that. Me and Jack are doing that tomorrow as part of our Lovecraft retrospectives, and it's going to be an interesting one, because coming back to it, I don't think either of us have had a very good time with it. It's like, because there's like, the beginning of the story is great. The end of the story
end's too rushed. Everything gets slammed in the last 5 pages, and you're like, what? This and then that, and then this, and then
the story at the beginning, and the story all crammed in at the end, and then the middle bit, that big saggy bit, where it's just the guy looking at the friezes and like in extrapolating wildly on this alien history. It's like,
the exposition dump when they go to the archaeology bit, where
it's like, Howard, fucking get on with it. I mean, first of all, how is he doing this? This is a frieze in like from an alien civilization. Where's he getting all this context and information from? How's he interpreting this?
It's mad.
It's madness. Mad. That's where the madness is, right? And it's also, I mean, I know this story is really well liked, but To be honest, I'm not a fan.
And
I'm
I
not
think
a fan.
it's ripe for someone making a film but making it better. You know,
Making
like
it
where someone
better,
takes the
yes.
element of a book and strips out the bollocks and makes a really good story. I think you could do that. I know Guillermo del Toro were going to do it forever.
He was forever. Whether it'll ever happen, I don't know at this point. But like, yeah, absolutely.
There is the elements of a really good horror story.
The setup is great. The setup is wonderful. The monsters. I mean, I love the Elder Things. I love the Elder Things. I think they're brilliant monsters, and the Shoggoths and everything. Like, it's wonderful, right? But that big saggy bit in the middle, it's not just the mythology, it's the way he tells it. Where it is literally just a guy stood around looking at friezes. And it's like, that's Howard, that's not a story. That's not a story.
See, this is quite typical of Victorian stories.
Yes.
But this is why I didn't want to write Harkins like that. I wanted to have a faster pace. I wanted it to feel more like watching a
punchy
TV show.
Yeah, it's got more of the, as I said. I mean, the comparisons are obvious, but like it has more of that Arthur Conan Doyle thing. That really like pithy, like brief. Where it's people's impressions of what's going on. So it's really quick and immediate, and it's emotive, right?
Well, yeah, because all of this all of the Holmes stories are ostensibly written by Watson, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you're getting like Watson's impressions of what's going on. And it reminded me stylistically of those stories.
I think that's quite intentional. Yeah. I like anything that feels episodic to read like that. But it's very fun to write as well, because it meant I got to sort of come up with like 10 or 15 different ghost stories.
Yes.
Which are ostensibly separate to each other.
Yeah.
But then weave them into something larger.
It's fun because it also allowed you to obviously bring in all of your influences and your interests and sort of incorporate them into one mythology, right? Into one kind of uber mythology. It's kind of cool in that regard.
Yeah, but I deliberately didn't put too much effort into laying down the rules of what that mythology is.
Yes.
With the ghost I have, because I think that's important, but with regards to how it all ties together, because I don't really think you need that.
No,
and also I think you sometimes take something away when you do
absolutely that. It does, because when you've described the parameters of it, suddenly you have to push against those parameters, don't you? You're contained then, aren't you? But there's no, like, in this book in particular, even though it has things, it has demons, it has Cthulhu mythos stuff, it has ghosts and whatnot. There's no wider suggestion of an orchestrator, for example, of this metaphysics, like a god or a devil or anything like that. There's no sense of a system or of people of something, an authority being in control of all of this.
No, I think as soon as you apply something like that, it can, depending how you do it, it can kind of make it a bit too regimented.
Yes.
And I think depending how you do that, it can be fun.
It can
like
work.
Something I really liked in that Control video game.
Oh, yes.
I liked how all the supernatural stuff had basically become bureaucracy.
Yeah, right. That's so cool, isn't it?
I enjoyed that. If you push it to its absolute limits of, we got another class 5, that kind of a thing. That I quite like that. There's something pretty fun about that.
Yeah, I like that very much. And of course, I mean, that game is tied directly into Alan Wake as well. So
it is. Because the DLC, you deal with a lot of the fallout from the Alan Wake stuff, don't you?
You do.
But just that idea that if the government did know about this stuff and it was accepted and funded properly, it would be just another overly bureaucratic department where there's people doing paperwork and
it would rob it of it. I mean, I'd be on Grimm's side in this. Like, it robs it of its romance, doesn't it?
Yes,
it robs it of like its mythos and its energy and its feeling. Yeah, it would just make it like part of life, wouldn't it? It'd just be like, it'd be like having to get car insurance or whatever, wouldn't it?
It would. It really would, because you'd be like, I've got a haunting, so you ring this number, dial press number 3, and then
that would so be it. It would be Ghostbusters, wouldn't it? It would be Ghostbusters. You would have private companies being set up, that would probably have like government funding or like public funding, and they would deal, provide the service or the insurance for dealing with occult or supernatural phenomena. And it's like, oh God, I wouldn't want to live in that world.
No, it would strip away so much of like one of my favorite sort of mythological things since childhood is the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
Right. And but I have that kind, that I think it's Oscar Wilde quote that the two tragedies in life are never getting what you want and getting it.
And then getting what you want.
Yeah. I always think that with the Loch Ness monster, like, wouldn't it be tragic to go through your entire life and them never finding it? But at the same time, wouldn't it be tragic if they did?
Yeah.
Because then it's just an animal.
Then it's just an animal, isn't it? It's just a creature. And it's like, oh, okay.
Fine. Yeah. So it's like, that's kind of an interesting duality with that.
Yes.
Like, you want them to find it because you want to see it, but then you think, oh, okay.
It's amazing how, how often that happens as well. I mean, I remember reading like occult magazines and things when I was a kid, right? Because my mom used to like them. And the things that are in those that are now entirely explained. Things like spontaneous human combustion. Do you remember when that was like
late 80s, they were such a big thing. Every program that were like mysteries programs and stuff like that on it.
And now we know why it happens. It's really rare, but we know why it happens, and it's completely mundane. It's completely mundane.
The ball lightning as well. You know that where you get near train tracks where you get like a ball.
Yep.
That were like it's UFOs or it's this, so it's like no, it's just like a blue ball of lightning that gets stuck between the power lines and the train tracks and just floats along. And if you see him, and I have seen him on videos and stuff, it's terrifying.
It's amazing,
but it's perfectly explainable.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're out and you could see this, I can totally understand why you would interpret it as something really weird because it looks weird, it moves weird.
Doesn't work in what you think of as something that's real. It kind of flies in the face of all of that.
But it's totally explicable.
It is. Yeah.
It is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, that the ability to explain it doesn't rob it of its majesty and its miraculousness. It's incredible. It's the circumstances for ball lightning have to be so particular.
Yes.
It is a kind of minor miracle in itself, but it is a phenomenon. It's just an atmospheric phenomenon.
It's imagine seeing it like before we had the understanding of anything close to being able to explain it. You can absolutely see why people build like stories around it and everything. But I just
imagine like finding magnetism for the first time.
Yeah. Why is this metal just flying across the room to another piece of metal or something?
You would so think that's magic. You would think that that's it's some sort of weird like curse or spell or something.
Oh yeah, because it looks like it. It's like an invisible force pulling something along. It's
unseen. It's absolutely. Lightning is a big one. Like atmospheric phenomena. Obviously, it's got obviously got
lights as well. Anything like that. That's like a massive scale version of that. It doesn't look real. It's bizarre. It's hard to explain. It is.
What they must have thought when eclipses occurred.
Yes.
I mean, like they must have thought the world was ending. They must have
you'd
thought
have to.
Something.
Yeah. The damage that would do to you psychologically. The sun's just gone out. It's the middle of the day.
Absolutely.
And it's gone.
And this is the thing that most of us worship, by the way. This is our God, So, it must have been horrific.
Yeah, very much. But that's why it is good having that knowledge. But like then it's like going back to something like you said, the Loch Ness monster. I really think it would be a shame if they did find it.
It does rob the thing of a certain majesty, doesn't it? When it is tied down by explanation, by something you can very readily define.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what would happen, though, isn't it? Assuming like ghosts are a really good example of this. Let's say that there is a phenomena, right? Let's say there is, somehow we are able to demonstrate that ghosts exist. There is some sort of phenomena happening there. Well, then there would be an entire raft of explorations into the phenomena, right? And eventually there would probably be an explanation for it.
Yeah, it would all get nailed down once it was taken seriously as a science. I mean, it's like space travel. That was a pipe dream until the 50s when people actually started building and we got a bit further, Maybe we can get near the moon. Oh, we've just gone round the moon. Maybe we can get on the moon. And you get further and further out. And now we're at the point where we're talking about going to Mars.
Yeah.
And not just as like a pipe dream, but legitimately it might happen in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And Ghost, that would be the same. All it would take is one experiment that proved definitively that, this is a real phenomenon.
Yeah. Then it would become that, wouldn't it? It would just become a thing, It's like, well, okay, that it's a phenomena in life, Because it would be, wouldn't it? That's the thing as well. It would be. It would just be another aspect of our reality, right? It's the problem. I think we've discussed this before. It's the problem with our linguistic binaries, isn't it? Where we describe things as natural or supernatural. Well, supernatural just means that which hasn't been explained yet, right?
Yeah, we ain't got an answer for it yet.
Right.
I can't remember where it comes from. You're better with stuff like this than me, but there is a quote that any technology advanced enough would look like magic if you took it back in time to someone.
Is it Asimov who said that?
It feels like Asimov.
I think it's Asimov, yeah. Any technology that's sufficiently advanced looks like magic, basically. Yeah. And it's absolutely
so if you took what we've got back to, if you took a gun back to 15th century, before that, because they had muskets, but I've got this little metal thing and I pull this trigger and someone just dies. You can't even see what's killed them.
When you point at them, point at them, someone dies. They would think you're a witch.
Yeah,
you're a sorcerer, necromancer,
there's this huge bang and then someone's just dropped.
Yeah,
it's
like, magic.
Yeah,
it's absolutely magic. I mean, there are things that look like magic to me now. Things like 3D printing.
Yeah, it's insane. Some of
that stuff. I'm like,
so this is like our technology advances. I did a exam last year for a qualification I was doing for IT, and the invigilator, I had to be on camera whilst I did the exam.
Yeah,
I had to walk around the room, George, touching the walls to prove I was actually in a room that looked like the room I was in, and that it wasn't like a fake room, like a hologram, which actually had all the answers written on it or something.
Oh, wow.
That seems mental if you think back 10 years ago, the fact that I had to prove. But I mean, it's easy. You could, we're on Zoom now. If we had cameras on, you could put a fake background on that.
Of course I could. I could be somewhere else. I could literally be on the moon. I could be on Mars. I could. It's madness, isn't it? It's absolute.
But I had to go out touching the walls to prove they didn't do that blurry thing when you go out, when you step outside the boundaries of the VR.
Absolute.
And it's like that seems insane, but that's just a standard part of
Oh my God! Yeah, that is like Jesus. What?
But that acceptance of this guy, this invigilator, must ask that question like a dozen times a day. Yeah. Can you just stand up and touch the walls? That is what would happen with ghosts.
Yeah,
that would the ghosts would become that mundane.
Yes,
it would become that simplistic to the people investigating them.
You're absolutely right. I mean, this medium that we're communicating over now is a really good example of that, isn't it? The internet, right? Which has allowed us to to talk and to make friendships and develop relationships and whatnot, it's this reservoir of stuff and of communication and connection, but which is now just so part of our lives. It's just mundane, right?
Yeah. And I mean, within our lifetime, we are possibly the last generation who fully grew up without it.
Yes,
we kind of straddle,
at all, right?
Yeah, we kind of straddle Generation X and then Millennials, don't we? Because
right.
Up to us being about 20, our life is what you would think of as Gen X. But then from then onwards, it was Millennial.
It was Millennial, yeah.
So, yeah.
So we are that weird kind of in between generation, which are like the Zennials, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I think that's
kind of what we are.
It?
Yeah, it's the Zennials.
Our childhood was the Stranger Things. It was arcades. It was riding out on your bikes. It was
very bizarre.
Phones. It was all that. But then suddenly you hit 20 and there's the internet and mobile phones.
I mean, we are one of the last generations that remembers, for the first few, maybe 5-6 years of our lives before there were computers at home.
Yes.
There was that.
Yeah, well, I didn't get a computer until we were about 14. It was,
it wasn't a thing, right? Homes didn't have computers.
Unless it was your school might have had one, but even then it'd be some piece of shit.
I mean, I do remember do you remember the RM Nimbus computers that they used to wheel out?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I remember those. Granny's Garden and whatnot. Bloody hell.
That one, the Oregon Trail.
Yes. Oh my God. And nobody knew how to use it because nobody was computer trained back then. Nobody.
No.
It was a specialist skill to be able to use a computer.
But that's like within our lifetime, that has gone from a thing in the late 90s that was, like you said, this brand new internets and computers. And then now, your granny's using it.
Oh, we're all experts now. That's something people don't get. Like the stuff we are able to do now is stuff that you would have employed a specialist to do, like not that long ago, historically speaking. I mean, this is a good example. This podcast is a good example. So, people who do YouTube and podcasts have to understand things that like audio specialists would have had to have done not that long ago.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And like
when you're editing this and doing sound levels and
suddenly we're all experts. Suddenly we're all like involved in this. It's really bizarre, isn't it? It's really strange to think, but that's what would happen. It would become so normalized.
In about 30 years. So how do you think that would be the same sort of turnaround for ghosts before people just or less before people are just like, yeah, all right, ghosts,
I think it would be more turbulent because I think there's more like ideological investment in the notion of ghosts, so you would have like religious problems.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Yeah,
you'd have a lot of people with very particular beliefs having real issues with the whole phenomena. It would be more like when evolution became theorized.
Yes, that's a good comparison. Yes, because the implications on what previously people now you can still believe this, but you basically, in order to keep believing that, you're basically got to put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 la, because otherwise,
that's kind of it.
It would be like that, wouldn't it? Yeah,
it would. Yeah, and you'd get it from all over the shop. I mean, you'd get it from all over, like the ideological spectrum. There'd be a lot of rationalists who would be like, nope, they don't exist. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Not having it. It must be something else. It must be it must be some, and they'd be kind of right in a way, because like the phenomena. I mean, the term ghost is the problem, isn't it? Because it comes laden with so much like historical freight, like so much, like supernaturalism and superstition. That's the problem. But if you are a genuine rationalist and a realist, and if the phenomena exists, then you just accept the phenomena, don't you? It's just like, okay, so what is the phenomena?
Stops being a phenomenon then.
Yeah, you're just like, well, what is it, right? Yeah. What you ask the question, what is it? How can we explore it? What does it mean for us?
I don't know if like it would even stretch to something as mundane as like buying an house, though, George, because
I wonder
they would have to report something like that then. Like you have to report if you've got subsidence, so you'd have to include it, wouldn't you?
Well, being an estate agent would be really interesting, wouldn't it? At that point, it'd be like, right, I do have to warn you, there are a couple of ghosts. They're not a problem. They're fine. You may find
there's just an old lady that sometimes sits on your bed.
That's right. You may see her sometimes. She's not been an issue. She's very friendly.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would turn into. And it's. Did you ever watch the sitcom Ghosts?
Oh, no, I know of it. I know. I was thinking of Rent-A-Ghost then for some reason from the 80s. Yeah. Sorry, no.
It's really, really strong Ghost.
Is it good?
It's very, very good, yeah. And do you know what? Surprisingly emotional.
Right, okay.
Because, so basically it's this big house, like a big sort of like manor house.
Yeah.
And it's got ghosts, but it's got ghosts from various different times in history. So there's one that's a caveman. And then there's like Tudors, there's Victorians, there's World War I pilot. There's like, it goes all the way through. There's like from different eras, people who have died there. But it's got that kind of Haunting of Hill House thing where like if you die within a certain vicinity of the house, then you're stuck there. It's got that kind of a thing going on.
Oh god!
But they really go into but now what's happened is a girl's moved in there who's a descendant of one of the people who once owned the house, who is there as a ghost, and she can see the ghost. So then it's for the first time someone can see him. So it's all to do with that. But it's a comedy, but it's in the classic tradition of British comedy. It manages to do really emotional stuff. You know, like when you're watching The Royal Family and it's really funny, and then boom, there's a moment that really hits you emotionally. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that in it. Like the fact that there's one scene where, so there's a caveman who's called Robin, who has learned to speak English over centuries because he died thousands of years before anyone else.
Right, so he's the oldest one, presumably.
And yeah, he is. And there's a scene where one of the ghosts one of the other ghosts, I think from like this Elizabethan era, is talking about how he died on his own from whooping cough or what have you. And Robin says, "You weren't on your own." And he says, "I was stood with you." He says, "None of you have ever died on your own. I've been there the whole time." And it's like, that's really nice. There's something really special about that. And then like also there's a character who died in the 1980s, and his family used to have a tradition that they'd started. They bought a video camera and they used to film Christmases.
Yeah.
And they managed to get hold of his old family Christmas tapes, so he's watching them. But then there's loads in the box because they carried on doing it after he died. So he has this dilemma of, do I want to watch this or not? And it's stuff like that. Again, it's seeing it from the ghost perspective, and it adds such a layer of sadness to it.
It's the humanity in the ghost, right?
Yeah,
it's what it means to humanity. Yeah, I like that.
I would recommend it. It's all on iPlayer.
That sounds good, actually. I'm gonna have to
with it being a British sitcom, there's only like 6 episodes per season, so you can watch the whole thing in a week if you want.
Yeah, that sounds good, actually. I'm gonna have to. I know of it. A lot of people have recommended it.
It is good. It is solid. It really is. It's just, I really like how they do. Again, some of the stuff I tried to approach with the book is, what would it actually be like being a ghost if you were a conscious entity?
What is the experience of that? Yeah,
the closest I could get to it is exactly what you said, which is that almost like being an Alzheimer's patient or someone like dementia, where there's a part of yourself you can hold on to, but the rest in it seems to keep slipping away.
Yeah, it sort of floats in and out, and everything is kind of uncertain and weird and fractured.
And then that makes you angry, and you know, you're prone to rage, and you don't want to be, but it's impossible. And
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, and you know, I really enjoyed reading the book. Actually, it's a big book, isn't it? It's 500 odd pages. Yeah, it's a good old big book. But because of the way it's structured, it doesn't feel big. It feels like like smaller stories, kind of like occurring one after the other, and that really helps. That really gives it like a readability.
That was the intention with I knew it was going to be a long one because there's a lot to be told in it. So the making it episodic like that really does feel like something you can. It was meant to feel like something where you can pick it up, read a chapter, put it down, and then.
Yes, it's very much succeeded in that regard, because it has despite the material it deals with, which goes pretty dark at times. It's very light, isn't it? You know, it's very easy to read. You know.
Well, I hope so. Did you have a favourite chapter? I want to ask you.
Oh, good question. I loved the Genesis Engine one. I don't know why I really responded to that. I don't know whether it's because it's kind of my jam. I love those meditations on consciousness and whatnot, you know, from science fiction. I loved that one. I really liked the Black Mold one. And I think again it's the imagery in that one. I just love the imagery in that one. Again, I got a smile from recognizing the Birkin monster.
I thought you would, with the big eye on the shoulder and everything. Yeah,
I got a grin.
There is something kind of chilling in real life though about mold, because mold is kind of like
it's creepy. It's weird.
It's like an iceberg in that you can only see a bit in it. Yes. So, like, if you can see black mold on your wall, your whole wall is covered in it.
Yeah,
it's just you can only see the bit sticking out of the water.
And it's alive. I mean, it's alive, and it's like it's growing, and it has. There is something very, very creepy, and
it is, I think so,
like innately unpleasant about the notion of mold.
When you look at it under a microscope, it's moving and all. It's like constantly undulating, and there's something really horrible about that.
There is something really, 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 really creepy about that.
And so making a creature that's manifesting through that, you know, when something scares you, so you think that's scaring me, so I need to write it now.
Yeah, absolutely, and marrying it to Cthulhu, like to the Cthulhu mythos, is a really good way to go, you know, because it kind of fits, you know, that a lot of the stuff in that Lovecraftian mythos has a kind of mold-like quality to it. The color out of space is kind of like that, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, but it's stuff that doesn't have a form, so it needs to grow one, and the quickest way to do that is with mold or a fungus or something
mold,
like that.
Something like a simple organism. You know, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. No, I enjoyed both of them. I enjoyed all of them, but I really liked those two in particular.
Okay, that's a good choice. I did think you'd probably like the one with the with the sort of cyborg, the automaton character, because we've spoken a lot
it was
about
very different.
consciousness and
like
ghosts.
you said, you were considering maybe taking it out. And I can sort of see why you would want to do that, because it's different from the others. It's kind of like it's a slightly different genre, isn't it? It kind of leaps into something a bit. But I think it works really well, because the whole book has this feeling of like a collation of different Victorian literary traditions and and of mythologies and of narratives that were really prominent throughout that era. So, and this is another species of fiction that was really, really, really goddamn popular at the time. So I think it really works.
Oh, thank you. It's I hope you'd enjoy it, because I think it's been a long time getting it to the point where you could buy it, but it was, I feel like it was worth the wait for me. It's out now, and it's out in a form I'm happy with, and it's not making me feel guilty that it's out.
Good,
and it's
good. Links below, by the way, guys. If you want to purchase the book, links below.
Thank you.
No problem at all. And for now, shall we draw this one to a close?
Yeah, that was lovely. Thank you.
Excellent.
We've got quite a few more topics lined up that we need to reconvene.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely. There's always, it's I mean, one of the things I was going to ask actually, Lex, is would you like to come on to one of the ones I do with Kit or with Jack and the guys? I mean, as I say, with Kit, we do What the Hell Is Wrong With Us, where we talk about like a piece of fiction or media that meant a lot to us. Which can be anything, can be literally anything. And we also do the Born in Blood, the Books of Blood. Born in Blood is my collections, by the way, but the Books of Blood series, which is we're taking each of Barker's stories from the Books of Blood and doing an episode on them. So if you'd like to come on to one of those at some point, that'd be great.
Yeah, I would. The What the Hell Is Wrong With Us is something I've wanted to be on for a bit.
Yeah,
not been able to arrange that with you, but yeah, that would. I'd love to come on that. I don't know if I've actually got what I think is the very first piece of horror fiction that I ever read, and it's a one of them little hardback books with like pictures in and stories. You used to get them like at the drugstore type of thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I still read it because the ghost stories in it are really, really good.
Yeah, I remember Ladybird did a series of them. Do you remember the Ladybird ones?
I think it might be Ladybird. I think it might be Ladybird, but that's quite an interesting one for me, because I can cite a lot of my influence to that book.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love those. They did like a Ladybird horror imprint in the 1980s, and you had like bespoke stories. So you had original stories, but there are also adaptations of classic horror. So you had Frankenstein and
absolutely. I think I had all of them as well.
I did too. I definitely had Frankenstein, and I definitely had The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because the artwork used to freak me out.
Yeah, the artwork was often surprisingly disturbing, to say these were supposed to be for children.
The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde still is freaky. The cover, it's Jekyll, and he's just drunk the formula, and there's like a dribble of it coming out of his lip. And in the mirror behind him is Hyde.
Oh, nice. That's a good image.
It's creepy. It's really like...
I had the Christmas Carol one, and they really went to town on making the ghost look quite scary.
Quite scary, yes. They definitely had a style, the Ladybird books.
But I would happily come on and talk about that stuff, and I'd love to do that.
I'll have a chat with Kit, and we'll see what we can convene. Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. Okie dokes, man. Well, thank you so much. And by the way, guys, if you want to purchase anything of Lex's, I will leave links to his specific work down below, including the book we've spoken about this evening, and also his author page, so you can go and have a look. As for myself, you know where to find me. Exaggerated Elegy around here on the YouTubes. Strange Playgrounds for my published work. Ginger Nuts of Horror for my non-fiction work. Arrow Films, we've got a couple of DVD extras over there, Kit and myself, which we're really proud of. And I think that's it. Lex, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. No, it's always a pleasure. And we'll see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.
could